It's Kate from Zen Stitching, and I'm joining you this afternoon in another of our Making Zen Artists series. Whoa, had trouble getting that one out. Making Zen Artists series, and the reason why I wanted to, I was having a hiccup over all of that was I can't even remember now. Anyway, I'm so glad you're here and I'm so glad you're following along, and I've been having a ball as we've been connecting with all the different artists for Making Zen. Some of you might be wondering, what's Making Zen? Well, Making Zen is an online retreat, and artists sharing their different techniques with us, and it's just going to be a wonderful time. In addition to these amazing workshops, we've got a wonderful Facebook community and lots of fun things happening over there as well. We've got some amazing sponsors for the event who have provided some fabulous prizes. Not Prunes is saying it is amazing. I'm so glad you think so. I'm having an absolute ball just thinking and talking about it. And this is one of our sponsors. Well, we're not sponsored by a pair of scissors, we're sponsored by Shokunin Store. They're based in Australia and they liaise very closely with Japanese artisans and sell these most amazing scissors. They're all handmade, and because they're handmade, they're crafted with so much care and they have so much quality. They are an absolute dream to work with. So Shokunin Store has very kindly donated a $100 gift card to one lucky person, and you get to choose what you want. So these are amazing. I can't speak, they're not focusing very well. I can't speak highly enough of them, but they're just so beautiful to work with. So carefully made. These probably will outlast me in sharpness and durability. So, amazing quality, definitely worth checking it out. We've got Linda saying, I've learned so much. This will be my 4th Making Zen retreat. Oh, so fabulous. I'm so thrilled to hear that. It's, I just think each one of the retreats is so exciting because we have different techniques. Sometimes we have revisiting artists, and that's a very nice segue into who we are chatting with today. We're chatting with Amy Maricle from Mindful Art Studio. Let me see if I can invite her. Is joining us today, and I've been talking all about these really fun things because she, in addition to beautiful drawings, does some beautiful paper cutting. Hello.
Hello.
As I'm waving a pair of scissors about.
I can do that too. I have my own version.
Oh, that's fabulous. Well, I was just saying how wonderful they are, and I'm sure you probably have your own favorite tools for working as well.
Indeed, but I dare say they're not as amazing as the scissors and the I don't know, I guess they're both scissors that you showed.
The snips. I know these are just beautiful. If you ever need a pair of snips, I highly recommend them. Just great. And because they've got a really nice tip on them, they're really great for getting into, really detailed areas.
They're kind of great for somebody who can really only use one hand too.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. Because the idea is you hold them up here rather than back here. So you've got a lot of kind of dexterity with and precision with how you use them.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, I'm so glad you're joining us again. And it's so lovely to connect.
It is. I always love when we get a chance to collaborate. So
Me too.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And look at how long your hair is. I think it's doubled in length since we last chatted.
Oh, really? Well, your hair is quite long too. So I don't know. We'll have to
Not really.
We'll have to compare notes off camera.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I'm sure people would love to hear a conversation about hair. It's all fitting talking about scissors. And how have you been anyway?
Good. Yeah. Really enjoying like you, doing all of the creative things and noticing change of season and getting a chance to draw and paint things that are kind of changing and wilting and turning all the earth tones, and so that's fun.
Yes.
But very excited to be doing some paper cutting with everybody.
I know, I'm so thrilled about that too. And it is a bit of a deviant in some senses too, because a lot of our other classes are all with needles and threads and all that kind of stuff. And I really wanted,
I aim to be a deviant,
I,
you know.
I love it,
So,
yes. You're the wild card. Deviant is such a good word, by the way. Um, but I really love it because whilst it's not what you usually associate with making Zen, you still achieve those same kind of calm, focused, and just delightful flow of working when you're doing that kind of work. I'd love you to tell us a little bit more about it.
sure. I mean, well, I think this is where obviously our work connects, right? So whether I'm drawing and painting, or if I'm paper cutting, or I'm making books, or whatever I'm doing, or writing even, it's just where do I want to start this sentence? I want to say it's I don't know. I think I'm competing with myself about wanting to back way up. Um,
Do we can take a few steps back?
yeah, let me back up then. Okay, so we connect around slow art practices. Let
Yes.
me start there.
Yes.
And so whether you're sewing with Kate or you're doing the things that I just mentioned with me, I think it all comes out of the same place. And for me, because I'm an as you know, I'm an art therapist by training, and I also did a lot of I have a certificate in trauma informed care. And then also, I got trained in something called sensory motor arousal regulation treatment. I'm saying all that because it really trained me very deeply and connected with my expressive therapy training, and helped me to realize that when we make art, there's just all these opportunities to tune in through the senses, through the body, right?
Mm.
So that is something I need. I teach it and I still need it. I kind of always feel the need to be like, I don't know if you ever feel this way, but I feel the need because every once in a while someone will say, "Oh, Amy, you're so chill, you're so zen." And I'm like, my husband's in the background going, I can be that way.
What a cheeky husband.
Yes, I love him. Yeah, no, and that is a facet of me, and I can be that way, but I do it because I need it, and I teach
Mm.
it because I need it, and it has changed things for me, and I do a better job of, like, it translates slowing down generally in my life and having more pause and being a little less reactive, but I am still reactive and grouchy and, anxious and all of the things. But I find that slow art practices really help me so much. So paper cutting, finally getting to what you asked me about. Um, Paper cutting, I think, is an incredible opportunity to do slow art because you have to go slowly for safety reasons.
Yeah, if you
And
want
I
all the
don't,
bees.
yeah, I don't want to scare anyone. It's not that it's something that I find to be like, I don't think it's a super risky thing to do, precisely because you practice it slowly, right? If you practice it slowly and mindfully, it's actually extremely safe. And I like it because it makes me really put my attention on what I'm doing. And it's interesting because the last time I taught it live, last summer or 2 summers ago, I really enjoyed getting some of the comments from my students that were saying, so many of them said, "Oh, you're right. It's so much easier than I thought." And a lot of it, there's just sort of this intimidation factor because it looks kind of precise in some ways,
Wow, beautiful.
and it's so detailed.
Mm.
But as with anything, you start with something that's simple and then work your way up. Um, so, I like to just really reassure people that, there's a lot you can do with really simple things. So like for Making Zen, I'm teaching this workshop. Yeah.
So beautiful.
Thank you. So this is a cracked egg. And so I have a little cracked egg tutorial. And it's all, you'll notice, so the outer shape is very organic. And obviously straight lines can be organic too. But I very purposefully chose this because it's much easier to do straight lines and triangles than it is to do the curved lines. Those take more practice. And really getting those nice sharp edges, part of it really is just taking your time. And then it's also scale, right? Like if you get into it and you're like, wow, this is just way too tiny either for my hands or my eyes, then scale up. Don't work so tiny, right? I say the same thing to my students when we're doing slow drawing or painting or whatever it is. There's no need to listen to me or anybody else, right? Because we're trying to tune into the body and see what the body needs and nurture ourselves. So, don't you change things. It works.
Yep, that's right. Take what works for you and run with it. And anything that is feeling too awkward or uncomfortable, you can park that aside for later or explore the areas that do bring you joy.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I would definitely invite the person who has a question to go ahead and ask it. And while they're busy doing that, I will say too, it's interesting because one of the things that I've been really focusing on lately is like this play point between challenging myself, like to represent things more kind of lifelike, but also to have space that if it feels too onerous to just let it go and I don't have to do that part, right? And it still translate.
Yes. That's interesting you should say that because I noticed in a lot of the images that you're sharing on Instagram, they're very beautiful and they're much more illustrative, I guess, compared with some of your linear repetitions of pattern.
Yeah.
And it's nice, isn't it? It's nice to have a kind of like create some boundaries to work within. So you want to explore kind of this other language, but at the same time, it's okay if you don't enjoy it and you can stop and put it aside as well. So
Yeah.
it's kind of keeps it enjoyable.
Well, I think too, like there's this way in which we make rules. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but I feel like I make rules for myself, both within my practice generally, but then also even within a piece. I'll be like, oh, okay, I have to do everything within this, egg shape, for example. And sometimes it's like, oh, that's a rule I made for myself. I don't have to listen to that rule if I don't want to.
I know they're both a blessing and a curse. I think creating or approaching a blank page with no rules or no ideas is overwhelming.
It's too much.
And that's where having some parameters like egg shapes, for example, is really helpful. But then if you're like too into the rules, then yes, you have to be able to break them. And I think sometimes that's where the really interesting dichotomy of creating art comes into play because you're pushing against your own imposed boundaries. And that's where you're like, well, okay, so if I don't do egg shapes, then what kind of shape am I going to do? And you might explore another shape.
Yeah. Do you want to read the question or you want me to read it?
Sure, I'll read it and then you can answer it. So it's through my watercolors. Excuse me if I didn't say that correctly. As an artist, two things important to me: inspiration in process. What is more important?
Well, I have two answers. First is I wouldn't presume to know the answer for someone else, but since someone's asking me, for me, process is the most important thing, because you may or may not feel, or I may or may not feel inspired on any one day, but if I don't keep up the practice of creating, then for sure I'm not going to make anything. And I know that inspiration comes often in doing. And for me, it's about creating, I love to talk about flexible structure. So I love creating flexible structures for myself so that I don't feel too hemmed in, but kind of like you're saying, I have enough structure to hold me in, and there's not, things are defined enough that I have something, I have a starting point. And so every time I sit down, I know that I'm working on doing, and you can see in this book, actually, there's a lot of egg shapes. This is an egg shape. It's a little hard to see,
Wow.
but this is like a hole and then an overlay. That's an egg shape. I let myself, this one's a circle. I let myself repeat things that I enjoy. That's an egg shape. And then this is an egg shape. So that, another egg shape, but there's a circle cut out. It's a little hard to tell, but that is actually
Oh, yes.
same
Yes.
idea.
Yeah.
Right. So I let myself, as Mary Oliver said, I let the soft animal of my body love what it loves. Right. So I'm really into eggs and nests and circles and everything, kind of nurturing and nourishing and all that. And that's one of the pieces of my flexible structure that helps hold up my practice. It helps me answer the question, what am I going to make today?
That's a really nice way of thinking about it, the flexible structure. I'm just writing that down because that's very poignant.
Oh, good.
But that's, I mean, going back to the question about inspiration or process, that's such an
Oh,
interesting question
yeah.
and such an interesting response too, because and I agree with you, the process. So inspiration is great, but sometimes inspiration is so heady that
Mm,
if you don't have the process, you don't actually do anything as well. And it's only through the
yeah.
process that you get to explore the inspiration. And through the process, you're going to learn what works and what doesn't. So, say, for example, you've explored a whole lot of different shapes, all from maybe it's inspiration of the like you say, the flexible structure that you've put in place.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I really like that question because I know quite often I get stuck with the thought and it never gets translated into the process. So the process is so important.
Mm.
Not to mention how much joy it brings, the actual sitting down and the creating and the working with the hands and taking the idea as a
Yeah.
something in the ether onto something that's tangible.
But I think so. That's interesting because I think that what you just said is sometimes what people have such a hard time with
Absolutely.
because they haven't given themselves, and that's not it's not a blaming statement. It's hard to give yourself permission to sit down and go slow and enjoy and just create and not necessarily know whether or not you're going to be productive, right? There's such an obsession in Western culture with productivity
Yes.
and who gets to
Yes.
be an artist and all of that. So I think that some, and I don't know if this is true for you. I think I have been lucky that I have always felt the need and therefore permission to create something, whether it's whatever the format.
Mm.
But I think a lot of people fall into the immense pressure that our culture creates around certain people get to be artists and you're supposed to be productive. Therefore, if you're making art and you're not making museum worthy art, you're wasting your time.
Yes, that's very true. Oh my goodness, there's so much in that. Yes, absolutely. So, I agree. And I think, like you say, allowing ourselves to have permission to be creative is such a generous act that we can
Yeah.
give to ourselves. Because, and I know I do this all the time. I'll come up with an idea and I'll think over it and I'll think over it and I'll think over it and I'll think it through until I haven't done it. I've convinced myself that I don't need to do it anymore. Whereas if I'm like, okay, great, got an idea, into the studio, sit down, 5, 10 minutes, you're then creating. And then through the process, you're like, oh, what
Yeah.
happens if I do this? What happens if I do that? And which ties back into, so the comment is coming in from saying, thanks, productivity is the wrong measure. And it is, like, that's something that I think, like you say, a lot of artists or people who would like to be creative feel the pressure to create something special or
Mm.
something that's for a museum. And rather than creating for the sake of just enjoying that creative process and the pleasure that creation brings.
Yeah, and I feel like my experiences and a lot of my students is the more I focus on process, the more my product improves, which is the funny
Yeah,
course.
exactly. That's
Oh,
right. That's why it's
oh,
such an
wait,
interesting
wait.
question.
You said exact. Sorry.
Love
No.
it. You crack me up.
Oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Watch out.
I know.
Don't let
The
them
night
talk
is,
about
but
anything else.
exactly, the night is young. Watch out.
Oh no. My mind is turning. I got to stop. Okay.
I know. It's bad. That was a bad egg of a joke.
Oh.
I'm sorry, everybody. You had to listen to that. So, yeah, we have fun, don't we? And
Yeah.
that's what art is all about too.
Yeah.
It's playful, it's enjoying, it's the big question, what happens if? And I think that's where it all gets really exciting.
It does. Yeah. And
Mm.
I mean, part of what I kind of bring it back to the paper cutting piece. I think part of what, oh, and actually the page I'm open to, this one, those shapes were inspired by folded, is it that one? Wait a minute. Just a minute. Please hold. Okay, hold music. Okay, this page,
So
those
lovely.
shapes were inspired by pieces of crumpled and folded cloth.
Ooh, lovely.
All those bends and I just thought like that's really beautiful. Those are really gorgeous shapes. So anyway, I just wanted to connect that in. And then this piece, now I remember. This piece was kind of like, okay, I took what I learned on that page and then retranslated it in a more open fashion.
Mm.
Some space to kind of reinterpret it. And that's part of what I love about, I like one of the things I'm really fascinated with is, let me slow down. One of the things I'm really fascinated with in my art is layering. And
Mm.
this technique, working in a journal, really just plays with layers and light and shadow and just such a beautiful way and texture.
Yeah. It's so beautiful how it's white on white as well. So it just so delicate.
I love working with like tone on tone
Mm.
that you can see. So this one has an overlay, right? So this is like the egg, but it's just a circle.
Mm.
And this time it's they're kind of like pine needle shaped, sort of. And then this set is more open, this set is more closed, and this is like a cream page, and this page is more white.
It's beautiful. What inspired you to go down the route of paper cutting as an art form?
That's a good question. I don't know where I initially saw it. Several years ago, I don't know. I mean, whatever I saw, okay, I don't know what kind of started me, but I know that I bought a book called Push Paper. It's a really odd title. There's a whole series of books called Push this, art material, Push that art material. So I have the one that's called Push Paper, and it's about like the books I believe are all about pushing an art material to like a really extreme level.
Mm.
And so they had all these incredible paper artists who were doing things like, narrating out an entire story in, lettering cut out
Mm.
plus pictures around the edge. I mean, it was just like incredible work. you know, and people working with, that's like on a single sheet. Then they had people doing quilling where you've got like the little tiny sheets and they layer them. And then they had people doing multicolored paper cut pieces. But the thing that got me super excited, I love installation art. And I can't remember who the artist was, but they had this artist who had done this incredible installation with pieces that were hanging from the ceiling, suspended, hanging down, and they basically looked like leaves and flowers and like vines and things, and it was all kind of moving and it was lit. And
Wow.
really, really incredible. And I loved the idea of like really pushing paper in this way. And then I started work from another artist. I think it's Mia Perlman, if I'm not confused. And she does similar things, but it's like the ones that I had seen at the time, they were kind of like undulating pieces that almost looked like waves or clouds or something. It was really large pieces of paper. And so I just got very excited with this idea of how dynamic can you make a simple sheet of paper.
Yeah.
And so that's where I started working with it in books and trying to see what I could do with the layers. So like, you know, there's, you know, cutouts, and then there's holes within the holes, and then there's things stuck on top of the, you know, so there's all this dynamic nature to it. And it translates one way in a floppy page like this, and another way in, like, I have a watercolor journal that's quite laborious to cut through, but that's, you know, a different way of playing. Like it's more structural at times.
Yeah.
So like I have one where it's like edges, where it translates maybe like mountain edges or something, that, you know, those sorts of things.
Do you have a favorite paper that you like to work with for the paper cutting?
When I first started working, I had a very expensive paper that I was using. I think it was Legion or something, but I'm not sure if it's really so much better. It's better, but I'm not sure it's so much higher quality than, say, like a 400 series Strathmore or something drawing paper. So like the, let me see, let me grab it. I'm not gonna be able to see. So like this piece, I believe, is on that really high quality paper. And that's similar to the pieces I was just showing. It's just the little like
so beautiful
almond shapes, let's say, something like that. But then like I have actually a hanging piece. Let's see if I can do this right there.
Oh, yes.
And so that is definitely made on Strathmore paper, and that's done just fine. And then let's see. Well, I'm giving you all a tour of my studio.
It's fun. Thank you.
This is going to be a little hard to visualize, but these are a little bit reminiscent of the inspiration that I had. They look like little vines. You know, yes. Move and sway. It's not really anything like what I was describing to you. It's a different thing, but same sort of
fun to see.
Inspiration point, let's say.
Thank you for that impromptu tour of the studio too. It's always fun to
for looking.
Oh, Amy, I could chat with you all day because it's so much fun and it's always so inspiring. So we've been talking a lot about the class that you're teaching as part of the retreat. Would you like to share a little bit about the bonus that you're providing for the VIP pass as well?
I would. I think that's what I was just showing you, I believe. I think it's this class, the paper cut art journal. So folks will learn how to take all the techniques that I've just been talking about, layering, cutting different shapes, and going into round shapes. Like, so you can see this one, these are like based on little bird shapes, right? So doing all those different techniques to translate it into a book like the one I've been showing.
Oh, So inspirational.
Yeah. And a
Oh
bunch of
my goodness.
folks have already grabbed it, I can see.
Oh yeah.
So people
We've got
are already digging in.
Love it. And on that note, we will wrap up. So for everyone who's interested, Amy is teaching her class on, is it Tuesday? Yes, Tuesday, the 19th of November, a little less than 2 weeks away. So come on over. If you haven't yet signed up, it's at makingzen.com,
Yeah.
and that's where all the information is.
Yeah.
And
Join us.
until next time, it's been so lovely to chat. Thank you so much.
So much. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Much love. Bye-bye.